All right, we are live. Silver Doctors live on air Friday, late or midday live stream. Hope everyone is doing well. Looking forward to having some good back and forth this afternoon. My name is Mike with my better half over my shoulder over here, Mr. Half Dollar. How you doing?
Doing good today, Mike. Happy Friday to you. Looking forward to a nice, cold, chilly weekend here. But so much has gone on in the past few days that we got a lot to talk about today, Mike.
Well, it sounds good. Looking forward to doing it as well. So with that being the case, let's acknowledge a couple people's presence in the chat, and then we'll dive into our discussion. So we got Chris says, come on, fellas, don't throw the word market around so loosely. We got RF3 says, thank you for all the hard work, research, and risk you take on Provide Format Platform of Truth. Buffalo Bullion, I'm completely naked. Okay. Pabar, we got Albert S., Bobby Jones, Brian W. All right, so more people are being notified. And so we are live streaming. So hopefully everything goes well, and we'll keep moving. But with that being the case, Mr. Half Dollar, how do you want to start us off this afternoon?
Well, when we left off on Wednesday, Mike, the impeachment debate was going on, and they didn't actually formally vote to impeach President Trump until Wednesday evening. Mm-hmm. So now he's technically been formally impeached by the House. There's some debate back and forth whether he's technically impeached since they haven't actually given the articles of impeachment to the Senate. Mm-hmm. But so President Trump is officially impeached now. And remember, we were talking on Wednesday, talking about, he said, if you want to see the stock market crash, go ahead and impeach me. Mm-hmm. So what happened to the stock market, Mike? Not only did the stock market not crash, but today we did a huge gap up to all-time record highs again in the stock market. This thing just keeps soaring to the moon, Mike. And gold and silver in the meantime have just been pinned down. Now they're moving this morning. It's nice, but they've been pinned down between 1675 and 1725 for the better part of the week. And I've been thinking they need to keep it under 17 to close out the week. But it might be more like under 1750. I'm not exactly sure because we don't know where they have to have the strike price hit. We don't know where they need to look after the bank's best interest there. But it just goes totally, completely in contrast to what theoretically should be happening, because the other thing is that the House just left, right? And they're not even going to come back until next month when it's the brand new year. So it's like total uncertainty about what's going on. Nobody knows how the Senate's going to handle things, and the markets are reacting like this. So I'll just give that as an update, let you add in your 2 cents there, Mike.
Yeah, well, I was very curious to see how the markets would respond, and so I remember just commenting and sharing my 2 cents on how it's just political circus. And so it just shows how we live in the divided states of America, to where we got D.C. on a different level, and then we got all the financial problems. And so, I'm surprised that the markets rallied the way they did. So that lets me know that it's even more of a disconnect. And so in talking with Daniel Lacaille about his thoughts on where we're currently at now from the Europeans looking inwards, he was saying that it's very, people are very complacent, and the fact that the markets are not responding in typical ways they would have in the past. And he said it's one of the things where people are literally asleep at the wheel, and that's pretty much why he thinks so.
Yeah, I haven't listened to your interview yet. I plan on hitting that up later on today. But that's interesting because that's like kind of what I titled this, right? I said it's a complete setup here for a reversal of fortunes because of the fact that, stock market's at all-time highs. People think there's no recession in sight. It's only going higher. Gold and silver are never going to rise, right? So it's like we got this complete complacency that's primed and ready for a reversal here. So that's very interesting. There's lots of news items. So that's just an update on the impeachment. Oh, and then just as far as the impeachment itself. So the first thing was the articles of impeachment. Those got approved. I guess it was Monday or whatever. Then Wednesday they voted to actually impeach. So the next step, just for people who don't understand how this process works, is the articles are going to be what's the word that they used? It's not delivered. I can't remember the exact words. But the articles have to be delivered to the Senate, right? And then President Trump would effectively be tried in the Senate. So that's where we stand now. We're at the in-between transition period from the House voting on impeachment to sending the articles over to the Senate. So that's where we stand on that.
Now, based upon everything I'm hearing and seeing, it will be basically dismissed, or they won't even really consider or take it serious in the Senate. But I also threw out that just a wild card. What if? Because like right now, between now and the time it reaches the Senate, there could be a lot of pressure on a lot of Republican senators to play ball if they're a part of that overall game plan. To where is there any chance that there might be a surprise in your opinion?
Well, the surprise is one of the surprises I talked about a while ago, and that's President Trump resigning. That would be the surprise, in my opinion. That would be the back swan, because just like everybody thinks he's a shoo-in for re-election, I mean, everybody understands the impeachment for the hoax that it is. So talk about something coming out of left field. Because remember, he already made America great again. Stock market's at all-time record high. Unemployment's at 50-year record lows. Everything is booming in the American economy. He goes out on top. Economy crashes. See that? You guys got rid of me, and look what happens. So that would be the surprise, in my opinion, Mike.
Yeah, possible. It's very possible. We will see, and we got some time. So let's. Well, go ahead. What?
One thing that's interesting, and just to bring this up just as a real quick comment, because it's something that came to my attention, right? Just from the Army angle of things. Tulsi Gabbard, right? Democratic presidential candidate. When everybody was voting, right? People either say yay or nay, right?
Yeah.
Well, Tulsi Gabbard voted present. This is a former Army captain, Mike. Or I think she was a captain. I'm not exactly sure what she was. She voted present, right? Basically, that means indecision, right? Nothing. I'm not going to make a decision. So if you're in the Army and you're trying to be that's one. And then number two, if you're running to be the president, if you can't make a decision, come on, Mike. I know she just lost a lot, because if I'm feeling this way, right, and I'm not even like, I'm like anti-war now, but if she can't either say yes, impeach him, or no, not impeachment, if she's just going to be neutral, that does not show strength to me. But that was just a little side rant there. Yeah. So we, I apart from just having glanced at the numbers, didn't pay much attention into it. But then I did notice how when Nancy Pelosi was calling off, she was doing something, and there was a cheering, and then she was like, and then I watched the commentary after that, and they said that Nancy Pelosi was more concerned with the process, to where she don't want any of her constituents to be singled out. So come campaign time, where there'll be a replay or some type of video made about them cheering, or whatever. So I thought that was interesting. She was like, yeah, and then the debate, I watched like an hour of it. It's all I could take. But there was a lot of you could see these people were totally doing like their re-election campaign, because some of them are getting out there real animated, and they got posters and everything, and this is a sham, or we must impeach, and it's like, oh, come on. But that's enough time to spend on the impeachment today. All
right, so just to touch on the chat a little bit, as always, if you guys have any thoughts or whatnot, feel free to let us know in the chat, or once I set the phone line up, you guys can give a call in. But Sean says new changes to Dodd-Frank January 1, 2020 allow banks to invest in hedge funds, and the hedge funds hold crypto. It said trade deals talk about currency and exchange rates. Interesting. So I wasn't aware of that. Do you happen to know anything about that, Mr. Half Dollar?
No, I haven't been following that. So that's news to me. I would have to look into that before I could really say anything about it.
Yeah, so I'm going to pop it up right quick. And so if you want to, we can keep moving, or check in with the chat and find out what else is going on.
I do have I have like 3 topics that I want to bring up today, Mike.
All right, let's touch them. Send me one of them.
Okay. I'm going to send you the first one right here. The first one is my favorite topic, and this this won't really take long, but this is going to be one of my favorite topics. So you know what one of my favorite topics is, Mike? It's my probably favorite of all topics. Inflation. So let's just talk about inflation for just 1 second here, Mike.
Okay.
This is an article from ABC, and I think it's out of Australia. .au. I think that's Australia. But pigs are being culled and pork prices are rising as African swine fever continues to spread. But the real kicker is found in there. In like the second sentence, it says experts say, and we have to take this at face value, right? But it says experts say the disease has wiped out an estimated 25% of the world's pig population. 25%. That is not a hit that is just going to be absorbed by the market. Now, it's interesting because for my family and I, we actually stopped buying pork probably, I want to say about maybe a year ago. So I actually have not noticed the price of pork at all, just because we haven't bought it. But there's no way that you can lose 25% of the entire global pork supply and not have prices just shooting up big time there, Mike.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
I haven't directly bought pork myself, so I'm not sure. But I saw an article or video or something where it was a picture of just a huge amount of pigs slaughtered and being buried, and it was something about pig loss, and it was more recent at that. So, what's going on with this with this particular thing here? Do you think this is man-made, or this a natural event that occurs every now and then, or why is this happening like right now?
I think it's man-made. I think it's man-made because it's spreading fast, right? It's virulent and it's highly mortal, apparently. So this is one of those things where it's just blazing through. I think some people call it like pig Ebola or something like that, as like a nickname. I don't know if it's like some weird strain of that, but yeah, I mean, I totally think that the government develops bioweapons and that they use them at will. But my point with this is, you got the pork population, right? Decimated. And that means pork prices are going up. We've been talking off and on over the last year about fish die-offs, right? And then we've been talking about the historic flooding, right? Over the spring and over the summer. And then we're talking about these Arctic blasts, right? Affecting crops. We also talked about 1 million cattle that died. I think it was in Nebraska, or it was in one of the states. I think it was Nebraska. It might have been Oklahoma, but I can't remember. But, all of these things, right? So the pork prices are going up. Fish prices are going up. Beef prices are going up. Grain prices going up. So this is just like food price inflation is about to thrust onto the stage here, Mike.
And so it clearly, all this activity to me shows that this is a deliberate attack to, I don't want to go that far and say starve the population, but definitely create a food crisis of some kind. What would you think about that?
I'd go so far as to say that, because they're evil and they're definitely demonic. And I think that, the rich can fend for themselves and they'll have as much food as they need to get through it and just let half the world's population die off. Could you imagine if 25% of the world's population died off? I mean, 25% of the pig population died off. This isn't something that's like, oh, that's just some crazy apocalyptic scenario. No, it's like these things are actually happening. Just right now, it happens to be a quarter of the world's pigs. Next year's going to be a quarter of the world's humans. I don't know.
Now watch this. Just the fact that it says expert says 25%. Would okay, it could be more, it could be less. How do they, of course, apart from them trying to keep count, how do you actually know the total percentage of pigs that have been killed or slaughtered or died because of that stuff? So it could be a lot higher than that. That's what I'm getting at. So that's just what's reported by the experts, whoever they are.
Exactly. Like, how's the methodology, right? Are they looking at 10 different countries and then getting an average and then extrapolating it to like a global, so those are interesting points there. But because was going off of each country's like what equivalent Department of Agriculture would be or something like that.
Yeah. With those
so that was one of the ones right there. That was one of the themes that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, definitely. So let's throw it out there to the people. So I see one person said, Bobby Jones says, control the food, you control everything.
Yes.
And so I wouldn't doubt, of course, not to be so conspiratorial, but yeah, these are all things that you just should consider, because at this point, all gloves are off. It's a race to keep this thing afloat, preserve it, and for the people that are in power to remain in power. So what better way to do that other than to cut off food supply, cut off water, cut off anything that gives people options. You want to limit the amount of options people have to where they'll be forced to accept whatever you roll out or whatever you allow them to have. And of course, we all know that there's a push for population control in general. So when I saw videos, when experts come out and say that the earth is getting too heavy, or earth is this, earth that, we need to alleviate this and cut down here. And I'm like, how do you know what the earth can sustain, given the fact that we've never had anything beyond 7 billion on the planet at this current moment? So all those statistics, doctors, scientists, engineers, I'm like, I trust none of them myself.
Yeah. And then, okay, well, so we need to call the population. So the people who are saying they can be the first line volunteer.
Yeah, let some of those people who know everything be the volunteers.
Yeah. And then so this leads us into another topic, and this is important on many different aspects.
Yeah.
And it also has a little bit about inflation as well, too, there. But this is just kind of a follow-up on that rare earths. because somebody brought this up, I think on a call-in when somebody called into the show on Wednesday. And I still don't know a whole lot about it, but there was an update this morning on Reuters. But a few things stuck out to me, right?
Yeah.
So here's the first thing that sticks out to me from this article. The first thing that sticks out to me is, and I got to remember where I saw it, but something about the United States is looking to build up a strategic stockpile of neodymium iron boron, which is like those neodymium. I don't even know how to say that word right. Neodymium, right? So those neodymium magnets, the ones that are like super strong magnets. So the U.S. government is looking to stockpile this now.
Yeah.
Now, so here's a few things that come to mind. First of all, if we're stockpiling this for military reasons, and if we have a strategic petroleum reserve stockpile, this brings back to what we tied in a couple weeks ago. Where's this strategic food stockpile? We know food inflation is coming. We know that crops and livestock are getting decimated. And we know the farmers are struggling. Is the government really looking after America's best interests here? That's the question that I have. Because where is our strategic wheat reserves? Where is our strategic grain reserves? That we sold off in 2008. So that's one of the things. But the other thing that I find very interesting about this is that it says in this Reuters article, it says, I can't remember. I should have highlighted it in yellow, but basically it says that, the United States does not have any neodymium processing facilities in the entire country, right? So we are totally dependent because they need these magnets and like missiles and weapons and things like that. We are totally dependent on foreign nations for this product processed, right? So that's where there's the rush to build this up to have our own processing. And here's what that leads me to think of. Think about all the ways that we destroy countries. We choke them off from things that they need through sanctions and through embargoes and through not letting certain things that they need to live and sustain themselves and to grow into those countries. Well, the rest of the world can turn on the United States and not let this stuff come into the United States. You see what I mean? So this is where that whole national security aspect comes in. But and then this also ties into the fact that if we're talking about the U.S. is going to be stockpiling, well, there's more inflation right there because you're creating all this demand again. So I'm just seeing signs of inflation everywhere. And, we talk about it at the retail level. We're talking about it at the food level. Now we're talking about it at the commodities level here, right? And so pretty soon, they're going to start stockpiling other things too. Thoughts on any of that, Mike?
Pretty soon, something has to give. Something has to give. You can't keep the manipulation going forever. And when it gives, it's going to be hard to put that genie back in the bottle. Just because they're trying to suppress this and push this up, and they're trying to control this thing as opposed to letting things just freely correct and do what they should do. And so instead they're pushing it down here. It's going to pop up over here. It's problems. I mean, that's all you can say. Like we're covering the fact that things are going to become very problematic, and it's going to get a lot worse the further they push this thing off. So.
And that word complacency that you said earlier is very appropriate here because that's exactly what's happened. Everybody's just so complacent right now. The impeachment is already out of the news cycle, and now the news cycle is focused on this stupid Democratic debate thing, right? So it's like, my goodness, you just impeached the president. Now it's not even on the front page of the news anymore. And, so everybody's just so complacent, but all of this stuff we talk about 3 times a week is just happening all around us really, really at fast speeds. These things are moving here. Which brings me into the next topic that I want to talk about. I don't know if you did a video about this at your channel or not. At Rethinking the Dollar, did you hear about this? This was yesterday. The Federal Reserve had a glitch, and it's been affecting direct deposits, right? So, apparently, people are not getting paid. Some people have not gotten paid. And I actually remember because I get the little notifications on my app from USAA. And I remember seeing something yesterday when I was going to the ATM that said, we're experiencing processing something, and there might be delays in access to your money or something to that effect, right? But yesterday was such a busy day, I didn't really look into it, but now I'm finding out that that's what's going on, is that there was a problem with this ACH thing. Here's what I want to bring up. So there was a glitch, and here's a few things from this article. This is the second time the Federal Reserve has had a major problem in 2019. But what brings up my interest is the very last, second to the last, is the very last paragraph. And I'm just going to read this sentence. Bloomberg News. So they're part of the problem, right? They're part of the mainstream establishment shilling, propagandist arms. So Bloomberg News, and this is from American Blanker, Bloomberg News sought additional information about the outage under the Freedom of Information Act. So this is the first time it happened in 2019. And then here's the kicker. But the request and subsequent appeal were denied. Right. So the Fed's talking about, you don't need to audit us for transparent and this and that. Why are they denying it? Why are they hiding it? And then someone's going to say, well, what if it was like a security breach and you could have hackers having access to that? But on the same token, right, well, you could also have people thinking about how you can even protect further against it, right? So that's not really a valid argument. So I just find that very interesting. So any thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, so what's even more interesting is the fact that by them denying that request for additional information, it makes it look suspicious, and it makes it look funny, to where you would only naturally want to dig deeper now, because it looks like you're hiding something. And so it just doesn't look good at the same time that the Fed is already doing some stuff, some funny business that the mainstream media is still not talking about. And so once again, it doesn't help their case at all if they were looking for help.
Yeah. So, you already got the repo madness going on. Now you got glitches with the ACH and the direct deposits affecting, potentially tens of millions of people, and possibly even hundreds of millions of people, who knows? Yeah. So it's just not good either way around. And then it's shrouded in secrecy yet again.
Yeah. As we enter into 2020, the year of uncertainty of all forms.
Yes, it is. So here's my last topic that I wanted to bring up today.
Okay.
Mike. Or did you want to take a moment to address the chat here?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because we were just kind of rolling. Nobody's giving us a call. Somebody give us a call in.
Yeah, the phone lines are open, so we should be good to go. And so, apart from my curiosity of diving into that Dodd-Frank Act, so I'm going to definitely dive into that later on myself, because it looks like it has something to do with the Volcker rule changing as well. So a lot of people are talking about that. So apologize for not coming equipped knowing about that information. So we'll keep it moving, but yet be ready on Monday. We'll talk about it. So Sean highlights at Silver Doctors, it says 730,040 gold contracts on COMEX, a record according to Alistair McLeod. So that is a lot of paper illusionary forms of metal. Yeah, so the question is, what will happen with that? Will they try to dump those things on the market at one time and somebody take a loss, or what?
Well, or they just keep it growing, keep it growing, and all you're doing is diluting that paper supply again. So there's even more contracts trying to fight for that same teeny tiny sliver of actual gold. It's going to end badly. So when I interviewed Craig Hemke the last time I spoke to him, he was like, they'll take it up to 800,000 contracts if they want to. And this was when it was at like 600. And I'm like, they're not going to do that. And then it's like 730,000 contracts, So I wrote an article, and I was saying something like last week saying, well, they're probably going to take it up to 1 million contracts. Could you imagine that? 1 million contracts of open interest on the COMEX. That would just be amazing. But that's what they're planning to do. That's what they're going to do, right? They'll just keep feeding it in as long as they can scramble month to month to deliver gold where they need it.
Anything to prolong this madness is possible. So I would never unexpect the unexpectable, like type of thing. Like anything is possible. Like, so that's why I'm not shocked or surprised by any of this at this point. It's just more so it's entertaining on my sense, because how much more can we cover of this magnitude before eventually the goal is always to wake people up. That's the goal here. So hopefully, as they prolong this, it gives more people time to wake up to the madness and begin taking advantage of the affordability of these metals at this current point. Because once all this breaks, everything at that point will be a little bit unobtainable.
Yes, it will be. And there's going to be a scramble just to get out of cash and to get into anything that's real.
Exactly.
So here is one of the other here's the last topic I wanted to talk about.
All right, but before we touch on that, it looks like we do have a call. Let's see if we can get this one in. Hello, caller. Great. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Logan. I'm calling from Ohio.
Logan from Ohio. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind this afternoon?
Good. Not much, I'm looking forward to some good weather pretty soon here, I hope. But I wanted to know that since silver is actually going up today, and it was a triple witching week, do you think that possibly that they lost control of it?
Possibly lost control of it. So we'll have Mr. Have touch on that off air. Is that the only thing you want to share with us?
Let me think. Well, that's about it. I mean, I'm thinking that the cartel probably lost control now that silver is going up. It's like almost up 20 cents today.
Yeah, 20 cents to me wouldn't necessarily mean lost control.
Since it was triple witching week, and we always see that triple witching week usually brings it down like tremendously. I was thinking it was going to crash, but it doesn't look like it's crashing today.
Yeah, it's still early, so give us some time. But I'll have Mr. Have touch on that off air because you won't be able to hear him because I'm listening to him here.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for calling, my friend.
Well, I'll take the answer off the air.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Mr. Have what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's a great point because remember, I've been thinking all along that they need to get price under 17 this week. I've been thinking that they have to have it under 17. Of course, we don't know exactly where they have to have it, but here's my point with that. I'm looking right now at the silver price, and I'm seeing, we got up as high as 1731.50 here, just about a half an hour ago, it looks like. But 11:30, I think that's when London closes. So in another few minutes here, there could be another leg lower because we've come back off of that 1731 high back down to 1718 right now, and they've had it under 17. So, we'll have to see how the day ends up. But that said. I don't want to make a call because I'm always wrong about all of my calls all the time. I think the metals start to rally here next week. I think we can start to rally here next week. Finally, even though we never got into that crazy oversold, extremely oversold territory, I do think that after we get through this quad witching, that we'll be able to go ahead and rally here. So, because that's like monthly expirations, quarterly expirations, yearly expirations. So that's what they talk about when they talk about the witching. I don't know where it is, but I do know that after today, Cartel has breathing room to let it rise. Now, do I think they've lost control? No, they haven't lost control. When silver starts moving up in dollar increments a day, that's when we know that they've lost control. Right now, their control is to feed as much paper as they can into the markets, invade foreign nations, steal their gold, and use it to supply the market however they can. Right. So that system has been going, and we're near the end of it. But when they lose control, it's going to be obvious that the control is actually lost. Yeah, it'll be obvious.
And that's like the 20 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents. That's not control. That's just a cool breeze blowing by in the wind. Like when losing control is like $5 to me. It's like something like, whoa, like what's going on? Like something just broke where it's going to catch your attention where you won't have to ask as to whether or not something broke or not, I believe. So, but Logan, thanks for the call.
And remember the move. Did you say another call?
So we do have another call, but finish your thought up.
Well, and remember, like I think it's rule 5. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, let's get this. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
James from Chatsworth, California.
James from California. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind this afternoon?
Hey, brothers. Great stuff you guys are doing here.
Thank you,
Just
sir.
a question. So if something happens and there's a reset, what happens to personal debt? What happens to car loans and credit card loan or whatever? What happens to that if we reset?
Good question. Is there anything else you want to ask, or we just touch on that one?
No, brother. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, kind sir. Appreciate you for the call. We'll touch on that.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Mr. Half Dollar, what are your thoughts? Because I believe that it's just going to be restructured, and you're still, you're not going to walk away with a free car and a free house. So, what are your thoughts?
It could go both ways. First of all, the main goal is going to be to try and hyperinflate it away to inflate away the debt. That will be the one thing, and then the reset would be after that. But that said, we have seen with that JP Morgan Chase thing, this is obviously just one example in one country, but they can, in fact, wipe the slates clean. We just saw that either this year or last year. I can't remember if it was this year or not, they can, in fact, wipe the slate clean. So that's the one way that it could go. And then the second way that it could go is with the reset, that in addition to the reset, you're also talking about, the debts are reset as well. So just a very, 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 very crude example, right? So let's say you're cutting 10 off of the dollar, right? So basically $1 becomes 10 cents and $10 becomes $1. Like, just saying that is just like in general terms, just to give an example. Well, then you would also take the corresponding number of zeros off of the debts. So instead of owing $1, you would owe 10 cents. So that's another way that it could go. That's super gross oversimplification of the concept. I realize that, but those are just a couple of different ways that could go there. Either way, as far as the gold and silver, yeah, you definitely want to hold on as long as you can until after that reset there, because that's that great wealth transfer that everybody talks about. Alistair McLeod, Egon von Greyers, those are some of the top guys talking about the great wealth transfer. I think Maloney talks about that too, even Chris Martinson. So, yeah, it's about being able to hold through it, get through it to the other side, and then you see the wealth transfer there. Yeah. So that's a good question. And that's hard, right? Because everybody wants to know, but we don't know what it's going to look like until we go through it. So the only thing you can do, right, is get prepared for it, really.
All right, exactly. And so as far as, I wouldn't take the approach that you're going to walk away scot-free as far as being able to keep that item without there being some type of additional cost, because the likelihood of them, like, resetting to where everyone goes to a clean slate of zero, but you still maintain a house or car and all those luxurious toys, is not likely. I can imagine it just being redenominated and the contracts renegotiated or somehow, some way, where they try to pick up where they left off at with their hands in your pocket still, so that you're paying them. So the goal is to make sure that their hands are always in your pocket. So you won't walk away with your pockets empty. They're still gonna have their hands in your pocket. So in some form or fashion, whether you got with whatever currency they're gonna try to reissue, they still want a piece of that. So that's the goal, to keep you in debt.
Yes. And then the other angle to that could be also that, well, if it is a clean slate, then you're not going to have access to credit again, because rates are going to be super sky high at that point, because we have to go back to an actual system of actual accruing interest on savings, right?
But so with that same thought there, do you think there could be a situation where they let you, where you can keep your house and keep all the toys and have a clean slate, but yet at that point, if you have everything you need, then what would you need credit for? Like, what would you need to go out into the markets and start borrowing for? Because most people finance the current lifestyle they have now with the car and the house. So if that's at zero, you won't even need credit directly unless there's something else we're not covering here.
Yeah, well, the question is, what is the average American using their credit for? Are they using it for a 2-week vacation in Disney World and dinner at Applebee's? Because if that's what they're doing, that's not good, Mike. That's not good at all. Now, if they got all levered up on a house and a car and another car and a boat and a motorcycle, I don't know. But there was another point that I was going to make, but I completely lost it.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you didn't. It's all good. Oh, I do remember my point. Okay, I got this. I hear this a lot, right? Like, because Venezuela, is the common example, and people are like, well, they've had so many different currencies already, and they keep coming out with these new bolivars. How do they handle the debts there? Do the people just get to keep their house? How does the bank handle the mortgage? Here's the thing, though, and people miss the big picture, right? Kind of like when we're talking about wages in Mexico, and it was 102 pesos per day, not per hour. Well, like in Venezuela, the big picture is most people don't have home mortgages, right? This isn't like the United States. Most places aren't like the United States like that when you come to like the developing world, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there because it comes in line with you got everything that you need. And if you don't have everything that you need, well, it's going to be very expensive to get on credit. So you're going to have to save up for it. And then that means that in the future, Americans are going to go back more towards, because, you build a house in Mexico, right? And you build the first floor and you leave the rebar sticking out of the roof because eventually you're going to put a second floor on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then you put the second floor on there and then you leave a couple more rebars sticking out because, who knows, maybe you make it a high rise one day and, So all of these things are just like, your house is built incrementally over time with your savings and not through debt. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it wouldn't be bad to go back to that system to where you have to actually have it. So you have to have some skin in the game, as opposed to 0 down or 6 months free. I'm seeing more and more advertisements for, it was an advertisement for come in over Christmas, 0 down, 0 money, walk out with an entire house furnished, and then pay a year later. I'm like, huh? Like what type of stuff are we currently experiencing? But that's only in the developed world. Like, you'll never get a chance to experience such ease of having everything financed in any other planet apart from the Western world that's already developed, which is the reason why we're having these issues, because of this them creating new ways of extending loans to people who already can't afford their daily needs, nevertheless all these extra toys that they're purchasing and things of that nature. So yeah, but the shoe will be on the other foot one day, I believe, after this whole restructuring. The emerging markets, the nations that have been suppressed and held down because they haven't had credit or easy access to financing the way we do, it's going to be their turn. So imagine the continent of Africa 15 years from now as they try to give like Nigerians credit and South Africa. I mean, all those nations that don't have any sound monetary structure now, they're going to be getting those loans and having credit cards and living 2 or 3 houses, all that stuff. So the way we live now is going to be in Africa and Central America, while we're living at a lesser tier of society in comparison to the rest of the world. So
yes, absolutely. The standard of living will be in decline in the United States, and you can protect against that with gold and silver and being nimble and keeping your skills up and your income streams. If not, then it's going to be a declining lifestyle. A couple of things real quick. Albert S. says, at what interest rate? I remember my mom telling me that she had a house in the 70s and the interest rate was like 11%. 11% interest on a house. Yeah. Right? People have home loans under 4%, right? So, imagine paying 11%. That's one thing. And then someone else, Sean DLT says, check out Executive Order 13772. He says, Jay Clayton from the SEC was in front of Congress last week when he said that they had new plumbing in place for the financial system and it's now ready. So we'll need to check into that and then see what we can talk about here next week. Because I am not familiar with that piece of news. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Nope. I'm just pulling up right now, and it looks like Executive Order 13772 was signed in 2017 by Donald Trump, and so we can definitely touch it over the weekend and come back on Monday with it. So we got some things. So basically what's happening when you guys throw out things that we're not familiar with or well versed in, ain't no point in just skimming through it. We'll do our homework this weekend and come back on Monday and we'll shine our thoughts on it. And then as you as well, feel free to call in and chime in your thoughts as well. And that's how we help one another out. So appreciate that.
Yes, it's a discussion, and everybody brings everything to the table so we can all be better informed, right?
Exactly.
Well, one more real quick thing from the chat that I want to address.
Yep, go ahead.
So during a hyperinflation, so this is during a hyperinflation, will you use some of your silver? Maybe the 90%. Yes, I will use some, right? Because here's the thing, and this is I don't know if this is good or if this is bad or not, but when you're in a hyperinflationary scenario, there will be some opportunities within that hyperinflationary scenario because this is going to catch a lot of people off guard, right? Yeah. So, is it a bad thing that somebody's got to sell their vehicle or somebody's got to sell their house and you've got silver for that and they can't really get it because, they can't pay this person and that person can't pay them. And so this does create a lot of problems that at the same time would create opportunities is my point there. So if there's an opportunity where I could use my silver to my advantage, yes. But the main goal is to hold off until after that reset because remember, you're either on board on that train when the train pulls away from the station or you've missed it, right? There's no after the reset, then you start stacking. It's too late at that point. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that. And just that last topic, I want to hit on just that last topic. And there's not much to hit on this at all, Mike, but it's just that Trump tweet from this morning. And I'm just going to read it as you pull it up. It says, I will be signing our $738 billion defense spending bill today. It will include 12 weeks of paid parental leave, gives our troops a raise, importantly creates the Space Force, Southern border wall funding, repeals the Cadillac tax on health plans, and raises the smoking age to 21. Big. And big government, right? And more obtrusive government and more like totalitarian government that tells people what they can and can't put in their bodies. So it's like just all the way around. This is like more government, more largesse. So remember, because you had thought it was like, I thought it was 738. That's just defense. Yeah. That's just defense, right? $750 billion just on defense.
So that's half of that 1.4 trillion then. So
yes.
and that's probably by the end of the year, that's going to be just as much as the Federal Reserve has put into the repo markets. Yeah, man, this is a big game.
The money, the hyperinflation is there. The only thing that's left is the crack up boom. That's all that's left. We had the 100-year slow print from 1913 to, well, 2000, you can't really say 2013, say 2008, right? Because then we had the 10-year print from 2009 to 2019. We're about ready to enter the crack.
Now watch this. The QE1, when Ben Bernanke first announced the emergency stimulus that was needed, that was the beginning of the end because that was supposed to be temporary. Here we are 10 years later. They attempted to withdraw some of that liquidity. And the thing is, that liquidity was just on their balance sheet. It wasn't actually out in the main economy yet. So what they're doing now is adding more to their balance sheet in a sense. But wait till they need to start actually pumping it out into the mainstream economy because you can only keep the flood contained for so long before it has to gush over into the mainstream economy. And then that's going to be their 2% or 3% or 4% inflation, whatever they say they can't find. They're going to find it, but I guarantee they're going to move the bar and say, you know what? I think 5% is probably doable when we're already at 8%. Or, whatever they're going to try to throw out. So you always know this is one big experiment, and we happen to be the guinea pigs.
Yep.
No pun intended. No pun intended on that one. So anyway.
and Albert S. asks, is the witching also in Palladium? The witching is for everything. That's just the generic term. So the witching has to do with just the term that they use for options expiration. Mm-hmm. So, and then that's in the options market, right? So whether people are, whether people are hitting their strikes or not, and then rolling over those options, or whether they're in the money or however it is. So that's the options market that we're talking about, and it's everything. It's not just gold and silver, but it's like all the stocks. I mean, everything that can be bought and sold with options, right?
Yeah,
is what we're talking about there for the witching. And then it's like you call it triple because you got like. Options expire on the month, options expire on the quarter, options expire on the year. So there's a whole bunch of different types of options that you can be buying and selling here. Yeah. So that's why they say that. So that's just that there, Mike. And then we've gone kind of a little bit over today. So I'll let you go ahead and have some final thoughts here, Mike.
All right. So the final thought wise, it's been great once again to connect this week. As always, president got impeached, but yet the market has responded in an opposite way than we all probably would anticipate it. But that's just more signs of them attempting to control the narrative and to keep you distracted from what's really going on. And everything we've touched on today plays into exactly what's going on. Enjoy the rest of this year. We got a couple days left in 2019, and then when we get to 2020, it's going to be a real interesting roller coaster ride because they're going to continue to throw anything they can at it. And because it's going to be hard to keep these financial monetary stories out of the limelight, they're going to have to be some type of natural occurrences, false flags, or whatever to really divert people's attention. So, unfortunately, that's usually the way they try to divert people's attention by some type of unfortunate event of lives being lost over here, over there. So be on the lookout for those things. Stay safe, stay prayed up, and put God first, and definitely He'll take care of you because none of this is new. It's just this rebranding of what's already happened in the past. So that's my little 2 cents there, Mr. Half Dollar.
Sounds good. And, so this is, I think, the worst of it. I think that we're set to rally any day here now. I will not be surprised if the metals rally starting next week. In fact, I'm expecting them to start rallying here come next week, but I'll probably be wrong because I'm generally wrong. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to be looking at, and especially if something happens. So I think Sunday night's going to be an important evening to be watching these charts here to see what happens when the markets open back up on Sunday evening. So go ahead and sign us off. Oh, and hit that thumbs up button. Smash that thumbs up button. I'm only seeing 37 thumbs up here, Mike. So, they try and bury us on the front page. They try and bury us in the search. They demonetize us. So we really can't appreciate those thumbs up.
Exactly. And thumbs up are free. They don't cost you nothing. All it takes a little bit of energy to go like this and go bloop, and then you're good to go. But appreciate you guys hanging out with us this afternoon, and definitely back at it next week. And so it's going to be different because it's Christmas time, so probably won't do nothing on Wednesday, but we'll get at you Monday and probably Friday, and probably maybe throw in an interview throughout the week or something like that. We'll see. But definitely a good time to be spending time with family and friends, being grateful for the birth of our Savior, Jesus Christ. So that being the case, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Peace.